Hey guys, Kyle the Otaku here, and welcome back, gruesome ghoulies, to the Shelf of the Damned. And how I'm gonna record these from now on. In the dead of night. With pretty lights in the background. Recently, I had an urge. An urge to watch something old, black and white, and has a cheesy rubber monster in it. So naturally, I consulted the wisdoms of the shelf. Passing over such classics as Them, Atomic Age Vampire, Attack of the Giant Leeches, none of these were speaking to me. And then I found the Tingler. I should probably point out that as I was writing the script for this video, as a matter of fact, right after I took down my notes for the movie, Brendan Tenold, a fellow reviewer and personal inspiration of mine, dropped a video on the Tingler. Thanks a heap, Tenold. The Tingler is a child of theatrical showman William Castle.
I am William Castle, the director of the motion picture you're about to see.
Some call him an innovator of interactive cinema, a master of crowd inclusion. I like to call him the godfather of gimmicks. Castle liked to give the audience a form of immersive interaction when it came to his pictures, by implementing gimmicks he'd ship out with his films. In The House on Haunted Hill, also starring the late legend Vincent Price, a glow-in-the-dark skeleton would float above the audience during the climax. In 13 Ghosts, he utilized a variant of 3D, where instead of making images pop out of the screen, the glasses would reveal things otherwise unseen to the naked eye. In this case, the ghosts. When Dark Castle, see what they did there, remade 13 Ghosts in the early 2000s, they further implemented the glasses into the plot of the film, and in recent news, there's talks of a 13 Ghosts television show that further explores the backstories of the ghosts. And if you know anything about the behind the scenes of the remake, you know why this is super exciting news. In Dr. Sardonicus, Willie would appear on screen in the final few minutes of the film to take a poll from the crowd on whether Dr. Sardonicus would live or die. Which was bullshit. There was only one ending to the film, and it's where the motherfucker died. My personal favorite gimmick of Castle's I like because of how hilariously mean-spirited it is. For his murder mystery film, Homicidal, Castle would appear on screen to inform the audience that this was the scariest part of the film, and that anyone who wishes to leave could, and viable for a free refund on their ticket. Sounds innocent, right? A fun little jab at the weak-willed in the crowd. But he was being serious. You could get a full refund on your ticket. You'd just have to stand up in clear view of everybody, follow a yellow line in reference to the yellow streak going down your back. You'd go to a space called the Coward's Corner, where a nurse with a blood pressure test would be waiting for you, and yes, they would implement the test on you. After the test is done, you'd write your signature on a card that read, "I'm a bona fide coward," in which you could exchange it at the box office for a full refund on your ticket. All the while, Castle would heckle you from the silver screen. Have I mentioned I love this man? He'd even use gimmicks on his cast and crew. For the Tingler, he had a chained box with a noisemaker inside, guarded by a police officer with a sign that read, "Keep away, the Tingler is on set. Should the Tingler get loose, vacate the area immediately." Oh right, this is a Tingler video, not a documentary on the life and times of William Castle. Although I would probably pay to see that. The Tingler is a 1959 science fiction horror film produced by Columbia Pictures. It follows a mortician named Dr. Warren Chapin, played by Vincent Price. He's investigating a strange phenomenon involving death row inmates having their vertebrae completely shattered upon death. The strange factor being, this only seems to happen to the condemned, who feel a great amount of fear. He's visited by a man named Oliver Ollie Higgins, the owner of a silent movie theater, who was invited to spectate his brother-in-law's execution. It's here I have to comment on the performances. Usually these older B-movies, there's a certain inflection when it comes to the performances. If you played me the audio from a 50s film, I'd probably be able to tell you the decade just from hearing how the actors speak. But here, every performance feels more natural and real. I was honestly surprised. After a long exposition dialogue about the mysterious medical phenomenon, Ollie invites Warren over to his place for some drinks. For me, there's something morbidly hilarious that after only 5 minutes or so of conversation, including death, autopsy, and horrific skeletal mutilation, Ollie just invites this man he just met over to his place for some joe. Hey honey, I'm back from your brother's state-sanctioned execution. I brought company. Oh really, dear? Who'd you bring? I brought the mortician over for some joe. You know, the guy who carved your brother's carcass into pieces after the government lit his ass aglow like a Christmas tree. Oh, how nice! Come on in! Coffee's on the stove. Of course, Ollie's wife wouldn't exactly respond that way because she can't. Ollie's wife, Martha, is deaf and mute. She's also germophobic and hemophobic. What? Oh God. No. Hemophobic. Hemo. Okay, that's the irrational fear of blood. Okay? Let's just calm down here. Point being, Martha has some physical and psychological issues. Issues that Warren takes note of. After this is a scene that I kinda have to gush about because behind the cover of what looks to be a 50s B-movie lies possibly one of my favorite back and forths I've seen from a 50s creature feature. There's a scene where Warren confronts his despicable wife, Isabel. Both Price and Patricia Cutts show their acting chops beautifully in this scene of betrayal, blackmail, and threats. It's easily one of my highlights of the film. Again, I was taken completely by surprise when it came to these characters. He winds up scaring her to the point of unconsciousness, where he then takes x-rays of her back, revealing the monster. A parasite that all us humans are born with that literally feeds off of our fear. The only thing stopping it from killing us all, our innate ability to scream. The film also acts as a sort of PSA against LSD abuse. LSD plays a huge part in the film's plot. There's a scene where Warren wants to feel the pressure the Tingler puts on the spine when in a state of immense fear, so he injects himself with 100 milligrams of LSD, purposefully giving himself a bad trip. Again, Vincent Price acts his ass off in this scene, showing how Warren's mind slowly begins to break away and shatter under the hallucinogenic drug. He screams, ruining the experiment, but then he gets a thought. The average person would scream out of instinct. But what would happen if we recreate the same experiment, but with someone who can't scream? You know where this is going. Yes, Warren injects Martha with the same dosage of nightmare juice, under the guise of insomnia treatment, and, well, she trips absolute demon balls. She sees all kinds of freaky-deaky fuck shit. Windows closing on their own, lights flickering on and off, axe-wielding Yeti arms, pools of blood filling from her sink and bathtub with gory hands reaching for her in a pretty cool color sequence. And of course, Jason Voorhees after spitting deep rhymes at the local slam poetry cafe. Dr. Warren Chapin is sort of like a cross between Basil Rathbone from Son of Frankenstein and Peter Cushing from the Hammer Frankenstein series. He has a sense of morality about him, but he'd also sacrifice his humanity for the sake of his findings. He's not doing it in a malicious fashion like Cushing's Frankenstein, but he's not morally clean like Rathbone and Son of Frankenstein. One autopsy later and...
Congratulations, Reg, it's a squid.
More like a centipede from hell. From this point forward, there's so many twists and turns that I dare not spoil any further. I was not prepared for the quality of the plot, the effort given by the cast and crew. I didn't have the highest expectations when it came to this one. And the reason for that is because I've seen the monster more than a decade ago on Cinemassacre's Monster Madness back when I was in high school. I figured that a movie with a monster that looked like this would just have been a freaking junk food flick. The kind of movie you put on to kill an hour and a half. Now for the gimmick old Willie implemented into this film. In the climax of the movie, the Tingler escapes into Ollie's theater. There's a scene where the Tingler is moving in front of the projector and the lights would turn off. Vincent Price would scream out to the crowd, "Scream! Scream for your lives!" and that the Tingler was loose in this theater. Meanwhile, in the real theater, there would be buzzers behind certain seats set to go off around this point in the film. Rumor has it there was a moment where an actor would be wrestling with a Tingler puppet. Someone fact-check this. I want to know if the puppet existed because it kind of brings a smile to my face. After a while, Price would inform the audience that the Tingler had been stunned by their screams and that the picture would resume. I like this gimmick, mainly because it plays not only to the audience in the theater, but has a reason to be there with the moviegoers in Ollie's theater. I highly recommend The Tingler. It's easily my favorite William Castle film, and I'm amazed and proud to hear that I'm not the only one with that same sentiment. Who would have thought a movie with a giant rubber turd with a hilarious name like The Tingler would be as good as it is? Is it a masterpiece? No. The monster looks hilariously cheap, being marionetted around by a single string, sometimes two. Even if the prop was better, the Tingler doesn't show up on screen for very long. But unlike Asylum of the Damned last episode, May the Devil Use You Eternally as a butt plug, the Tingler is carried, in my opinion, by a well-written script, performed by a stellar cast, and made by a director who wanted to make the movie-going experience an actual once-in-a-lifetime experience. Something more than just planting your ass in a seat and watching a movie. Therefore, may the Tingler's praises forever be sung within the highest ranks of the shelf. Have you seen The Tingler? If so, by all means share your thoughts on the film in the comments below, and if you haven't seen The Tingler, it is available to watch for free right now on Tubi. I highly recommend it. You have literally nothing to lose if you wind up not enjoying the film, even though I'd probably be a little surprised if you didn't. I'm Kyle the Otaku, this has been The Shelf of the Damned, and when the tingles go away, all that remains are shivers. You think of a better segue.